All right. Chapter 3, probably one of my most favorite chapters in this book. Now, in this chapter, it is the 7 cures for a lean purse. And a lean purse, obviously, just like lean meat, means there's not a lot of fat to it. A fat purse has money, right? A lean purse doesn't. So the cures to create a fat purse. It starts out talking about how Babylon's so amazing, and they went through and they built the walls, they built the shops, and they did all this stuff. Well, once that was all done, all of a sudden the king noticed that a lot of the people were poor again. So he called in one of his advisors and asked his advisor, why are there so few who have money? And the chancellor says, I fear, king, to paraphrase, that it's because a few of the rich people have known how to get richer. Sound familiar? Well, a lot of people right now are upset with those who are making the money because they say, oh, the rich are just getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, right? And it's all the rich people's fault. So the chancellor gives some pretty interesting advice. He says, you can't blame a rich man for becoming richer. That's not a bad thing, right? Why should you condemn a man for succeeding? Because he knows how, right? Neither may one with justice take away from a man what he has fairly earned to give to men of less ability. In today's society, there's a lot of people who believe in that. Communism, right? Socialism, where people think that you should be able to take from the rich and give to the poor, right? Because those big, bad, evil, rich people. Now, we've talked about this already, how anyone can earn money. If you're in an environment where the government allows you to do what you need to do in order to make money, meaning you have the freedoms to go out and do what you need to do. So the king says, well, Arcad, right? Here he comes back again. Says, hey, this guy knows what to do, so let's bring him in here. Okay, and he comes in, and let's start going in here. He talks about, hey, I'm a dutiful subject to the king, so I will impart. Bring them in, and let's talk to them. Let's see what we can do to help them. So he sits them all down, and he gives them the first cure. The first cure is, if you're poor, start getting rich. Okay, start thy purse to fattening. He goes around and he asks everybody, what do they do? What profession do you have? One of them, he says, hey, I was that, so if I could do it, so can you. Then Arcad turned to a humble man who declared himself an egg merchant. If thou select one of thy baskets and puts into it each morning 10 eggs, and take out from it each evening 9 eggs, what will eventually happen? It will become in time overflowing. Why? Because each day I put in one more egg than I take out. Does any man here have a lean purse? And everybody raised their purses, and they laughed. Okay. And he says, all right, now I shall tell you the first remedy to cure a lean purse. Do exactly as I have suggested to the egg merchant. For every 10 coins thou places within thy purse, take out for use but 9. Thy purse will start to fatten at once, and its increasing weight will feel good in thy hand and bring satisfaction to thy soul. And this is something I want you guys to understand. He says, deride not what I say because of its simplicity. Truth is always simple. Have you heard this before? Truth is always simple. Your mind will recognize it. Your heart will recognize it. Your very soul will tell you this is truth. Okay? So it may sound very simple. Off of every dollar you earn, put 10% aside for yourself. But the simplest things in life are oftentimes the things that are the hardest to do, right? And I like where he talks about there, once you have it, its increased weight will feel good in thy hand and bring satisfaction to thy soul. How good does it feel to know that you have money in case of emergency? If something were to happen, you're okay. I know I read an article a couple months ago, and it talked about how the average person, if they needed $2,000, just $2,000, right? Doesn't have the ability to get that money. So if something were to happen to them where they needed that, they would not be able to get that money put together. And that included credit cards. And that's what shocked me, is that even using a credit card, they wouldn't be able to do it. So that means they've maxed out credit, no savings. So put aside that 10%. Start it now while in your youth so that it's something you'll continue doing once you're married, okay, on your mission. Anywhere you go throughout your life, always do that. All right, the second cure is control thy expenditures, okay? One of the students asked, how can a man keep 1/10 of all he earns in his purse when all the coins he earns are not enough for his necessary expenses? So he looked around the room and says, essentially, everybody here, how many of you yesterday didn't have enough money? They all raised their hands. Then he said, how many of you would like to have more? Obviously, they all want more. Some of you are rich, some of you are poor. But it's interesting that everyone didn't have enough money. So what it proves here is that as you get more money, your expenses go up. And that's true, right? Because you start thinking, well, I can afford this, and I can afford that. Arcad then tells the men not to confuse necessary expenses with their desires. And I think that's a very important one. He says, study thoughtfully thy accustomed habits of living. Okay? He tells them, he says, engrave upon the clay tablet each thing for which thou desire to spend. So go through like we talked about with your budget. Talk about everything, okay? Select those that are necessary, home, food, utilities, car, right? And others that are possible through the expenditure of the 9/10 of thy income. So, okay, you have other things that you can do. Cross out the rest and consider that a part of the great multitude of desires that must go unsatisfied, and regret them not. Do not become green with envy because other people can do things that you can't, okay? And he says, don't touch the 1/10 that is fattening your purse. Let this be your desire, okay? Don't go out there and crave the big fancy steaks. Crave the 10% being put away to grow your savings. And then one man, I love this. Hereupon one of the students, wearing a robe of red and gold, arose and said, I am a free man. I believe that it is my right to enjoy the good things of life. Have you heard that before? I can do what I want, be what I want, right? No man can tell me what to do. I'm not going to be like a donkey who has placed a burden upon his back and then go told what to do. And our cat, he's a pretty wise guy. Very knowledgeable. He says, well, if the donkey could choose the burden placed upon its own back, do you think it would be weighted with heavy bricks? If it would be weighted with heavy gold and jewels? Or would it place upon its back something light to eat and some water for the long trip? And so he says, listen, a budget is not a burden. A budget is a way for you to become more wealthy. You're going to do your own budget. No one's going to do it for you. Because remember, what have we talked about? You reap the benefit or the disaster that comes out of your own actions, right? If you do something good, you did it, and that's amazing. If you did something bad, it's your fault, okay? So the next one is budget thy expenses that thou mayest have coins to pay for thy necessities, to pay for thy enjoyments, and to gratify thy worthwhile desires without spending more than 9/10 of thy earnings. So the second cure is never spend more than 9/10. The third cure, make thy gold multiply. Arcad has already talked to Basir and his friends, right, about that. It says, gold increases rapidly when making reasonable earnings, as thou wilt see from the following. Okay? Once you have money, there's always going to be people coming to you with get-rich-quick schemes. Have you heard that? If it's too good to be true, it probably is, right? I've told you guys already, I love Ronald Reagan. Trust, but verify. Always sleep on it. Never ever do something that has to be done right away. If you've done your studying, if you already know, and then the opportunity arises, then you're prepared, right? And you can make a choice. But if it's something new brought before you, you need to make sure that you are wise in what you do, okay? So make sure when you're doing that, trust the people that know what they need to do, okay? He gives an example about a man who gives silver to a lender and to multiply that, and he takes the interest and then he keeps multiplying it for his son. over the course of the time from the son was born to when he became 50 years of age. In 50 years, the investment multiplied itself at rental almost 17 times. That's amazing. And then the son received that money. So the third cure for lean purse, to put each coin to laboring that it may reproduce its kind, even as the flocks of the field, and help bring to thee income, a stream of wealth that thou shalt flow constantly into thy purse. Guard thy treasures from loss. We talked about it a little bit, just briefly, about making sure that you never invest in people who it's not what they understand how to do. He talks about, before thou loan it to any man, assure thyself of his abilities to repay and his reputation to do so. Our cat talks about how, his first investment, right? He lost everything. Guard thy treasure from loss by investing only where thy principal is safe, where it may be reclaimed if desirable, and where thou wilt not fail to collect a fair rental. Consult wise men. We've talked about this. Talk to those who know how to do it. Okay? Secure the advice of those experienced in the profitable handling of gold. Talk to brick makers about bricks, bread makers about bread. Okay? Let their wisdom protect thy treasure from unsafe investment. The fifth cure, make of thy dwelling a profitable investment. In here it talks about, no man's family can fully enjoy life unless they do have a plot of ground wherein children can play in the clean earth, and where the wife may raise not only blossoms, but good rich herbs to feed her family. To a man's heart it brings gladness to eat the figs from his own trees. We've talked about renting, we've talked about owning. Here in The Richest Man in Babylon, the next cure is own thy own home. We've talked about it. You build equity. It's a forced savings account, for lack of a better term. Owning your own home is one of the best investments you can ever do. It brings pride, it brings a sense of community, and allows you to be able to grow your own trees, and it's proud. Grow a garden. Do those things, because when you eat that food, there's a sense of pride that accompanies that. The sixth cure, ensure a future income. You need to make sure that you are preparing a suitable income in the days to come. To make preparation for your family, that he should no longer be with them to comfort and support them. In this, it's talking about, obviously, retirement. It's talking about you need to be growing that, setting money aside, whether it be 401k, CDs, IRAs, Roth IRAs. We've talked about those. Okay, and if you pass away, obviously life insurance is heavily recommended to provide for your family when you're passed away. Increasing your ability to earn is the next one. And the final one, actually. You need to set concrete goals. Don't waver in what it is you want to do. You have to set out. I had a meeting with a friend of mine, and he's very well to do, mind you. And I was mentoring a student at a local university. And we both talked about it. He says, well, how have you achieved what you did? And my friend says, well, I just kind of figure if I do good, then eventually things will happen. And it shocked me, because my advice to the student was, you need to set a goal, and everything you do in life works towards that goal. What is your goal? What are your goals? And then set goals below it. Because there's no way you can say, like we talked about, I'm going to quit doing this January 1 and this, and run 10 miles a day. Well, if you're going to run 10 miles a day and you've never run before, you need to start out with a smaller goal. For the first month, I'm going to run 1 mile. I'm going to get to that point. And then month 2, I'm going to increase that to 2 miles, and then increase it to where you now are able to run the 10 miles every day, if that's your desire, right? Set reasonable goals that you can achieve. Don't overreach, because once you achieve one, then you've mastered that and you can go on to the next level and the next level, and you can achieve greatness. My parents gave me a motto when I was born, and my motto that I've had my whole life is destined for greatness. If you truly understood where you came from, then you can understand that you can achieve anything in your life. We've already talked about our Stevens family motto for my children. You're a Stevens, and a Stevens can do anything. And I'm so tired of hearing other people saying, that's too hard. I can't do that. You know what? You can do anything you want to. I firmly believe that. This truth that you come from your Heavenly Father and are a child of God. You are born of a royal line. Why would you not believe that there's nothing that you can do? Why would you not understand that every door in the world will open before you if you just gain the knowledge, apply it, and grow based on that? Make sure you pay your debts promptly and don't stay in debt. Make sure you take care of your family. Make a will so that if something happens to you, knock on wood, that nothing does, but if something happens to you, you know where your items go. Have compassion upon those who are injured, smitten by misfortune. Aid them with reasonable limits. So it says, the seventh one, cultivate thine own powers to study and become wiser, to become more skillful, to so act as to respect thyself.